In today's episode, I interview Robert Glover, the author of the best-selling book No More Mr. Nice Guy, which has been translated into over 25 languages. In today's episode, we dive deep into masculine and feminine dynamics, overcoming the nice guy syndrome. What is the distinction between a good man and the nice guy? And why do women don't actually desire nice guys? What is this really about? Why do men crave for validation, and what is the impact of that in relationships and other areas of their life? Why do so many men struggle with anger, resentment, and sexual shame? How can men break free from this and truly reclaim their power? And this episode is not just for men, it is for women as well, because you will gain insights into the male mind unlike any others. A little bit about Robert Glover. He's a psychotherapist, speaker, and best-selling author, known for his work to help men overcome the so-called nice guy syndrome. He helps men develop true confidence and step into their authentic masculine energy. Let's dive in.
Lauren, good to be here with you.
You published No More Mr. Nice Guy 25 years ago, and I feel it is even more relevant now in 2025 than ever. What has changed in the last 25 years?
That's a good question because, I finished writing the book well over 25 years ago. It's been out in print almost 25 years. And when I finished writing then, lots of people said, Robert, you need to publish this book. There's lots of people that need it. And I've continued to work with men for the last 25 years. I'm still in my own men's program. I lead men's programs. And I see the same thing. And in No More Mr. Nice Guy, I talked from that frame of reference 25 years ago what I thought were contributing factors to nice guy syndrome, which I think many of them are still there. But with the younger generations, whether it's Gen X or millennials or Gen Z, a couple of other patterns that I see. One is when I first started working with nice guys 30 years ago, a lot were like me. I'm a tail end baby boomer. And a lot of these guys would say that they had disconnected from their fathers. Father was gone, either gone because of divorce, rarely saw him, or worked all the time, or dad didn't feel safe, he was an addict or abusive, a philanderer maybe, and a lot of men were trying to be different from their fathers. I heard that a lot. Nowadays, what I hear from a lot of men, especially the millennials and the Gen Z, is that they had nice guy fathers, which makes sense because my son's a millennial. He's 39. And so I finished writing the book when he was a teenager. And he and his stepbrother said, Dad, you got to get this book finished. We know a lot of guys that need this. At that time, they were 14, 15 years old. So now we have a lot of younger men who maybe dad was around, but all he taught them about being a man was just don't piss off your mother. Because that's what he was trying to do, trying to avoid pissing off the son's mother. Two more pieces, I think, if you throw in. Another one is social media, that of course, is a phenomenon of the last, say, 15, maybe 20 years. Now where every millennial, Gen Z's grown up with ubiquitous internet, social media, swiping right, swiping up, swiping down, whether it's just wasting time on YouTube, doom scrolling on Instagram, maybe even TikTok. The more you just spend time, wasting time, the less in your masculine that you are, the less that you're being challenged, which is what activates and creates a sense of validation for the masculine part of ourselves, men and women both. And I guess two other things I'd say would contribute. Another is what I would say is a lack of masculine initiation. Now, I'm not saying my generation had that either, but I think more and more young men just grow up in the nursery, seeking female approval and validation. I mean, it begins with mom, of course, and then it's our babysitters, our nannies, our preschool teachers, our elementary school teachers, primarily female. So a lot of young men don't know what it's like to be challenged, but it's not their fault because these older generations like mine have not helped initiate younger men into the challenging, frightening world of the masculine and taught young men how to feel masterful, how to take charge of their life, how to be the man that is basically the target that attracts the arrow, to be the man that attracts the feminine, to attract female, to attract money, to attract opportunity, attract adventure. So instead, we sit around either waiting for it to come to us or we go chasing those things thinking they'll fulfill us. We go chasing the hot woman, we go chasing success, we go chasing money. Then I'll just add one more piece, and that's maybe the whole toxic masculinity piece, where, the swung from this extreme of the patriarchy, provider, protector, all the way over to all men are evil, everything men does is terrible, it's toxic. So if we've got this message that everything about being male is bad, well, that's even going to try to do more of what nice guys already do. Try to become what we think other people want us to be, hide anything about us that might get negative attention.
Specifically, what you mentioned around validation, what is the true root, the core of nice guys, the reason, what is the core of why they're seeking validation?
I know you talk around masculine and feminine, and the way I talk about it is a model, okay? It's not like truth, is just an approximation. So I talk about the energies of masculine and feminine. And I don't necessarily say, well, because you're a guy, you're masculine, or because a woman's female, she's feminine. I believe energetically we have both parts. I think we've had that model for centuries. The feminine part of ourselves, and all children are feminine. That's part of the problem when I say that we as young boys don't get masculine initiation. We're never taken from that feminine world, the nursery, where we're just surrounded, where all of our needs are taken care of, and we're not taught how to be masterful, how to get our own needs met. If we've never learned how for our masculine to actually husband our own feminine, fill our own bucket with either through self-care, getting enough sleep, getting to the gym, having a job, making money, having good guy friends, having adventures, those kind of things. We often then turn to women to say, fill my bucket, love me, approve of me, like me, choose me. And when we take that to a feminine creature, they often push that away because it just feels like a demand on their already empty bucket. And the feminine creature's going, I don't want to come fill you. I don't want to come validate you. I don't want to come make you feel good about yourself. I'm empty. I want to be filled. And another way I put it is that the feminine is highly attracted to a man who's comfortable in his own skin, knows where he's going, and looks like he's having a good time getting there. And every time I share that, I said that to Chris Williamson a few months back, and he took that viral. I say that to women dating coaches, and they all go, oh, yes. So the women get it. They want a guy who's comfortable in his own skin, right? He likes himself. He's taking good care of himself. He knows where he's going. He lives with purpose, which is internally validating. He looks like he's having a good time. He's enjoying his life. He's having fun. He's on an adventure. That's all highly attractive. But that needy part of ourselves, I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Manson's book, Models. It was the first book he wrote. And it's called Attracting Women Through Honesty. Basically what he said in that book is don't be needy. The needy is repulsive to a feminine creature because needy says, here's one empty bucket, saying to another empty bucket, fill me. So bring that back to us men of any age, my age in my 60s, going down to, men in their 20s. We have to learn how to activate that masculine part of ourselves that can masterfully penetrate the world, masterfully get up and get the job done. That's internally validating, so we don't need to go seek external validation from women or even our successes. Oh, look at me, look at what I've accomplished, look at the car I drive, look how much money I make.
So what you're essentially saying is even though society might perceive these men, oh wow, that's a powerful masculine man, look at the success and kingdom he has built in that sense, and yet there is still that deeper desire and he still remains in the feminine world, so to speak, and he's still looking to be validated. So he too can still be a nice guy.
That never ends because what I see, I'll get online and I'll watch these influencers that, of course, trying to sell us all something that basically say, be like me, I'm up at 3 a.m., doing my cold plunges and running my how many miles, I made this much money last month, I'm this and I'm that, and, you could be like me if you buy my $20,000 product and that. And I look at those guys and I go, I don't want to be them. I don't want to be in their skin. Because one thing is, I thought, when are they going to get happy? When are they going to be happy with their $1 million launch, their $10 million launch? When you see them, when I hang out with my billionaire friends, I'm going, yeah, does that make you happy that you have billionaire friends? But most of them seem to be doing two things. They're trying to outrun some demons from their past. They usually have a story, right, about the totally abusive, unapproving father, or the early deaths, in their family, or their fear of death. They're trying to outrun some demon. And I tell you what, I don't think you can be successful enough to outrun your demons. They're still right behind you. And the other piece is, it still looks like they're seeking that external validation. Look at my yacht, look at my house, look at the pretty women, look at my car. You never get enough. Remember, it's an empty bucket, and everything's got a hole in the bottom. Everything's going out the bottom. The only thing that gives true contentment is when we get up, do the job masterful, and then we can just rest in nothingness, put our head down, go to sleep, and know we've accomplished what we need to accomplish. That is satisfying. But then we get up the next day, and there's still another challenge in front of us, and we get up, welcome that challenge, bring our A game to it, do it masterfully, and then we know, I'm done. It's complete, but it's never really done.
It's also the element of, you said nothingness, entering stillness, right? That the big importance for men to enter stillness, to enter nothingness. It's almost like the constant need for validation is also a running from that stillness.
It is. That's beautifully put. If you're familiar with the model of David Data and how he presents this yin and yang and masculine and feminine, he says, basically in the spiritual energetic sphere, the masculine does just rest in nothingness. It's just constant. It's consciousness, right? It needs nothing. Well, we live in the human sphere, so we got a few needs, right? But when I first heard him say this, that, the masculine, masterfully conquers this, masters that, solves that. And then it's time to kick back and do nothing. Have the beer, watch Sports Center, enjoy the game, sit in nature. That is our deepest desire, is to conquer, to accomplish, to master, so that there's no more demand. And as David Data says, in The Way of the Superior Man, first paragraph of the book, the masculine error is to think at some point this will all be done. My woman will be happy and quit complaining. My boss will approve of me. That motor I fixed and got running will stay running, and those ones and zeros I lined up will stay lined up. But it does never end. But then we get up in our masculine. We get up. We say what needs to be done, what's required of me. We embrace it. We dance with it. We welcome it, and it's best done with other men. We are at our best in tribes, whether it's our hunter-gatherers, whether it's playing a sport, whether it's making music, whether it's accomplishing the big thing. It's best when we masculine creatures, join and do it together masterfully. And again, most men have not been initiated into that space.
One of the kind of myths or limiting beliefs is, if only my woman or my partner would be different or would be happy or would change this or would speak differently to me, then I'm going to be happy. There's this fixation on that something is inherently broken with their beloved, which almost like kind of externalizes and is blaming someone else for deeper pain within. But why is that belief so destructive for men when there is an inherent belief that there is something broken with their partner, and if they change, then they are almost like get permission to finally change and to be happy and fulfilled?
Yeah, you're talking about me. I'm a recovering nice guy. Yeah, I'd spent a good part of my adult life using what I call covert contracts. If I give this to them, they'll give that to me. If I do this right, they'll approve of me and love me. If I could, whatever I'll do, I'm expecting this thing back. And so if I make her happy, she'll be happy and not get angry or want to have sex with me. So we somehow think the feminine can be managed and controlled. But the feminine is the big bang of the cosmos. The feminine is hurricanes. The feminine is tornadoes. The feminine is storms. It's earthquakes. It's volcanoes. That's the feminine. And that doesn't get tamed. But again, that's the masculine error, is to think I can tame that and it will stay tamed. And I know where that showed up for me in a relationship is I often would pick women that maybe had some flaw I saw in them, that if I can just help that, if I can help them get over their depression, get over that bad relationship, help them get out of debt, make that car payment, start paying their bills on time, get happy. I thought I can fix that because that's what I was trained to do by my mother. But I think it's even still part of just the masculine. If something needs fixed, we go try to fix it. Now, I'm a marriage therapist by training. I started doing marriage therapy 40 years ago. So I've worked with a lot of couples. I've been in a number of relationships myself. And yeah, most people walk in my office saying if they would just change, I'll be happy. I've done the same thing. But my core belief around marital therapy, in terms of how I can most help people in a relationship, is to recognize everybody involved invited the other person into their life to help them either recreate familiar roles and or work through old baggage, typically from mom and dad. And I've heard it said we tend to be attracted to people who have some of the worst traits of both of our parents. So if you're attracted to women and they have some of the worst traits of your mom and your dad, and the people you connect with are attracted to you because you have some of the worst traits of their mom and dad, and maybe throw in a stepdad or stepmom or two in there as well. The reason why we do relationships, see, we have an internal fallacy about relationships. I tell men, whenever I work with men and when they walk in my office, I say, whatever your male brain thinks a woman can do for you is wrong. And I tell the women, whatever your female brain thinks a man can do for you is wrong. But what our partners can do is help us create a powerful personal growth machine. Our partners and the relationship dynamics we create with them are a portal, a window, a crucible into the deepest parts of ourselves. When we open to them with vulnerability, when we open to them with sexual intimacy, when we just day in and day out life, our partners are going to trigger our deepest woundings, our trauma, our losses, our abandonments, our pains from childhood. And if we know that, everything our partners trigger about us, we can welcome. We can know, oh, I invited them, or they are loving me enough to trigger my old baggage. Now that can be a pretty big leap sometimes to go, thank you, dear, for cheating on me. You brought up my deepest wounds. Now I have a portal to enter in and work on it. Thank you, dear, for treating me, with such disrespect and such neglect. I'm grateful. But if we use that as such, everything is a gift. Now, again, that can be a big leap to say, thank you, dear, for, being this crazy human being that's forcing me to deal with my own stuff. But if at least, it opens the door a little bit to say, why did I choose this? Why do I perpetuate it? Why do I even reinforce the bad behaviors I don't want? Then we've got a space to go work on some old stuff.
There's also this fixation on monitoring her mood constantly, right? Which is also deeply unattractive in that sense, like constantly checking. Is she angry? Could she be angry? How is she going to react? And at worst, like you say in your work, it can lead to lies, manipulation, right? And even trying to kind of withhold information out of fear. Oh, she could get pissed off. She could get angry. How can men break free from this, the constant fixation onto the feminine, the constant monitoring, which is a total disconnect from being in their own power, being in their own center?
That's a good question because, yeah, you're preaching to me. What I think we're dealing with is, I'll just say, is a nervous system issue. It's not just a little habit. It's truly wired into our nervous system and our emotional body. Going back to, as babies, our survival was dependent on our mothers being attentive and being able to meet our needs in timely, consistent ways. But what if mom was depressed? What if mom was sad? What if mom was sick? What if mom had other kids she was having to take care of? What if mom had a job and she went right back to work after? What if our primary caregiver, who we were dependent on, life and death dependent on, for them recognizing our needs and responding in timely and consistent ways, that's a pretty big emotional piece. Right? So I know, for me, I've always had that pattern in relationship to be monitoring the woman I'm with. I still feel it in my nervous system. So just as an example, just yesterday, My wife and I had a good day together. I was in the evening. I had some calls down here. I got up. She'd gone up and taken a nap into the evening, and got up fairly late and just got up and ate some yogurt and did a bunch of stuff for my daughter for a trip she's taking. And I'm kind of fixing my own dinner. It's about 8:30 at night, and she seemed kind of distant, and I felt it. Right? I felt that. I thought, what? What now? She was in a good mood earlier. What changed? And I'm noticing that internal, my nervous system's reacting. I'm trying to figure it out. Is she just trying? She's got a lot to do to help my daughter. Is she not feeling well? Is she still tired? I don't think I did anything in the last hour and a half that upset her, right? Because that goes back to mom. It goes back to every female creature I had a sense of dependency on at a young age. So because it was so young when this dependency developed, is still wired in my nervous system. And partially because I never got a masculine initiation that taught me how to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, how to face fear, how to lean into life and death. And the funny thing is, as I've learned to soothe myself, ground myself, breathe, remind myself she loves me, she's not going to leave me, I haven't done anything wrong, I can just soothe myself while watching and observing my nervous system wanting to react. I'm going to keep having that work to do. Now, I do notice my nervous system is both getting calmer and more relaxed. It doesn't get triggered as quickly. The big part is I notice it sooner, and I've got the tools to soothe myself.
It's almost like when we're coming from that needy energy, we are being inauthentic. And then what we're essentially getting is that pushback, which kind of almost like becomes a self-reinforcement cycle.
It does. Right? It does. And one more layer we can put on that, because you're 100% right, is that it also creates what I'll call a reverse polarity. Because if I'm in that scared, needy, place of I'm going to get abandoned, I'm in my feminine. And as I approach my wife from that feminine, validate me. Tell me everything's okay. Tell me you still love me, right? Tell me you're not mad at me. I'm the little child in that feminine place, and I'm polarizing her into her masculine, to where I'm saying, fix me, fix everything. And from her and her masculine place, she's probably going to get even more irritated about my neediness, me being a little boy, her having to fix it. She's not going to feel any deep attraction to me in that state. She's going to feel more of that repulsion. Get away from me. I got things to do. Don't burden me with more of your emptiness and your neediness. And so another tool, I'll give your listeners a hack that's helped me tremendously. Whenever I have a sense that my wife is upset at me, distant, whatever. And whenever my nervous system gets triggered, what I find has helped me is to just tell myself, my woman's either not feeling sufficiently loved by me right now, or my woman's not feeling sufficiently connected to me right now, or my woman's not feeling sufficiently safe or secure with me right now. And is there anything I can do about any of those three things? And so instead of me being empty and trying to fix it and make it better and ask, what's wrong, tell me what's wrong, I say, come here, or look at my eyes. Because I'm telling her what to do, I'm leading, so I'm in the masculine, and if she does it, she's now polarized into her feminine. And because I'm solid, and I'm not coming from an anxious place, and I'm breathing, and I'm grounded, and I'm giving her love, I'm filling her bucket. And if I have no attachment to the outcome, if I'm not trying to fix, I'm just bringing to my woman what she most needs. I'm just gifting her. I'm filling her bucket. All that I have to do is often just bring a little bit of presence, maybe a little bit of polarity, maybe a little bit of physical affection, a little bit of, kind of masculine demand, anything that puts her into her feminine. And now I'm going to be amazingly attractive to her, amazingly secure. She'll feel more depth of connection, especially if I'm not trying to fix something. I'm just gifting her with my presence and my masculine leadership. And I find that my wife, almost every time I'm conscious enough to just ask, is it one of those three things? Instead of me projecting all of my stuff, well, she's always this or always that. How come this? Well, what? I'm just, she needs more love. She needs more connection. She needs more security. Can I bring any of that to her? And then it's amazing how that transitions both her, but it transitions me into a more powerful masculine pole in the relationship. And it makes me feel better.
And you said something there which is so quintessential here. in the moments where you're conscious? Because I'm sure you've heard that, I hear that often from men. Okay, that's all amazing, but how do I make sure that 10 out of 10 times I can be so conscious, right? And it's like, it's a journey, right? Because I wish that too, and I'm sure every man would wish for that, because what you just shared here, imagine for a moment a person would be able to do that every single time. But again, we're imperfect, we're human, things are primed into our nervous system. And it's about kind of it's also giving ourselves grace, right? Giving ourselves grace, okay, as long as I'm progressing, as long as I'm getting to a place where I notice myself becoming more conscious, I'm essentially stepping into my power, essentially.
Yeah, I love that. We got to give ourselves some grace. We're imperfect. We're growing, and every one of these situations is an opportunity to grow, opportunity to make some mistakes, learn from the mistakes. You look at the professional athletes. They don't hit every shot they take, every basket. They don't score every goal. Most shots on goal, go wide. Football players, they don't score a touchdown every time they get the ball. You don't hit a home run every time you get up to bat. But how you do get good and increase your odds at performing at a high level is through practice. The difference between you and I and professionals practice all the time. They have the best coaches because they're trying to do something difficult and challenging. They know they're not going to do it at the highest level 100% at the time, but they will practice in ways to increase the odds of them doing it consistently. So I see, my wife is just opportunity for practice. And sometimes I will do better than others. Sometimes I'll be more conscious. Sometimes if I'm tired or hungry or irritable or overwhelmed, I won't do so well. And again, I have to give myself some grace. And luckily, my wife gives me a lot of grace as well for when I don't do it as perfectly as I could.
And that's such a beautiful gift. Like when when a woman is working on herself, and to receive that from our wives, when I received it from my wife, that level of grace, I think that's one of the most, what you just mentioned, is one of the most beautiful gifts a woman can essentially give to a man.
And I've noticed I get more grounded and more solid and not going into those cycles where we just kind of blow up and get into the fight. Amazingly, she does better. She's got her own coaches and shamans that she works with. She's filling her own bucket by going to dance, and she takes good care of herself. A week ago, my wife and I walked to a little taco place we like to get some tacos, and we sat down, and this young woman, the waitress, with kind of a short crop top on and kind of low, just it looked like she was there basically just to look good. She comes in and she goes to put some salsas on the table in front of us, and she is standing just right next to me, just about as close as she could get, and putting the salsas and kind of telling which ones are hot, and then I could just feel my wife going, And the women do that down here. It's sport to see if I can get the attention of a man who's with another woman. They do that to each other. So I feel it. In the past, I would have gotten anxious and thought, oh, fuck, I'm in trouble. She's going to be mad at me. In the past, my wife would have gotten mad. She would have been mad at the woman, but taken it out on me, maybe for a couple of days, and I would have been feeling done too. And so I'm soothing myself, going, this isn't going to go well. I'm sure that woman's going to come back here again. And then my wife says, will you trade chairs with me? I go, I would love to. So I move in her chair. She moves to where I was sitting. She goes, I'm going to see if that woman's as friendly with me as she was with you. And that's all she said. And then nothing else came up. We had a male waiter after that. The woman did come by maybe one other time. Nothing else happened. And then just this last Monday night, so about 4 nights later, she and I were driving out to go visit some friends. And she said, I want to apologize for the way I handled that thing in the restaurant the other day. She says, I don't like that I said, no apologies. You handled it beautifully. You were respectful. You asked me to trade seats with you. I said, no apology. Thank you. So yeah, that's a good woman that as I work on me, it invites her to do the work. I call that the relationship teeter-totter. When one person kind of does their work, it unbalances the teeter-totter. This person down here goes, uh-oh, they're working on themselves. They're growing. And that makes them anxious and afraid. Oh, they're going to leave me. They're not going to need me. They're going to find someone better. And so they have two options. They can either try to bring you back down, which that's what some people do, Or they go, I better work on me. I better get better. I better get to the gym. I better learn to work on my shit. I better get a coach. Now all of a sudden get some balance this way. And this person goes, oh, look, they're growing. They may leave me. They may not. I better pull them back down, or maybe I need to go work on me and then that's why it's a powerful personal growth machine. If both people can welcome whatever the other partner brings, treat it as a gift, treat it as an opportunity for personal growth and development, that's a gift we give back to our partner as we work on us and inspire them to do the same without demand, without expectation, without saying, you've got to work on you.
I heard so many people say this, and each time when I hear them say it without quoting you, I'm like, no, Robert Glover said that. Because it's the thing around, for instance, one version I saw that only recently, people pleasers, specifically here talking about men, it's not that they're not angry, they are the ones who feel the most anger. And I think essentially you were the one who really first kind of introduced that to the modern world. And I think a lot of people, some are quoting you, some are not quoting you, but each time I hear it, I'm like, you said that. And so why is that, number one? And can you explain the paradox to the listeners of nice guys seem like so nice and priding themselves in never raising their voice, and yet at the same time there is this powerful anger inside them stuck, and then sometimes will even erupt in a way where you go, I thought that's a really nice guy who never raises his voice.
My ex-wife, who I was married to when I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, called those victim pukes. You know, that stuff that's just been building up and building. And I'd have those, and I would just blow up and say all kinds of hurtful, mean things. And later she might ask me, how long has that been bothering you? I go, I don't know, 6 months maybe? And she said, and you never thought to just tell me? No, actually, never crossed my mind that was a good idea. All I thought of, if I tell you this, you'll blow up at me, so I keep it in. So that's the covert contracts, that if I do this for you, then you'll do this back. I've given to you, how come you don't give back to me? I do this, how come you don't appreciate me? I do all this, how come you don't want to have sex with me? It's a giving to get, so it's fundamentally manipulative. It's covert, so it's secret. The other person doesn't know about the contract. So the things I see that contribute most to this resentment, frustration, most nice guys won't say, I'm mad as hell, or I'm really pissed off. Oh, no, I'm okay. No, I'm a little bit bugged. Oh, no, I'm just frustrated. No, you're resentful. You're pissed, right? And that can come from those covert contracts. I gave, you didn't give back. I did this, you weren't in a good mood. I did that, you didn't want to have sex with me. I did everything for you, but you didn't want to be my girlfriend. All those covert contracts, nice guy seduction, I call it. So it might be our covert contracts. It might be our lack of boundaries. I was in my mid-30s in my second marriage and already had a PhD in marriage and family therapy before I ever learned about boundaries. I didn't know what those were. I didn't know that they existed. I didn't know you could say, no, stop, I'm going to do this. If you do that again, I'm done, or I'm going to get off the phone now, call me back when you're in a better mood. I went to a therapist. In my very first session with her, she demonstrated boundaries to me. Now, I don't know if she could just tell I needed the boundary presentation, or if she did that with everybody on their first session. But that was changing, because if we don't set boundaries, we do let people treat us badly. We do let people walk over us. We do let people hurt us, and we just keep it in, and it builds till it comes out one way or another. And maybe a third thing that contributes to this is nice guys are not good at asking for what we want. We're not good at saying, can you help me with this? We're not direct or bold. We don't surround ourselves with people who want to help us get our needs met. And we're terrible at receiving. I've had so many people in my life, the women in my life said, Robert, you're difficult to give to. I am. I make it hard for people to give to me. A little example, I'll be at our table, and I'll get up to dinner to go get a fork. And my wife will say, where are you going? And I go, I'm just going to the kitchen to get a fork. She goes, I'll get you one. And I go, no, I can get it. Because if I let her get me a fork, that makes me like my dad. The controlling asshole. Mrs. Glover, go get me a fork. That'd be my dad, right? So I didn't want to be like that. But when my wife says to me, I'll get you a fork, and I say, no, I can get it, I'm robbing her of the opportunity to give to me. And she says, let me give to you. That's how I show my love. You know how hard that is to sit back down and let her walk to the kitchen and get me a fork, and then I'm gracious? I'm not going to rob her of the opportunity to love me because it's hard for me to receive. I'll be taking the bag of garbage out to the street. She'll go, do you need any help? No, I got it. No, I don't need help. I'm just carrying a bag of garbage out. I've learned to say, yeah, babe, come on, come give me a hand. Well, and she just wants to be with me and just wants to be there. So I've had to work for many years now at letting people give to me. So if a nice guy is living with covert contracts, giving to get, and not getting back as much as he thinks he should get, if he has no boundaries, he's letting people just use him, walk on him, treat him badly. He's not good at asking for what he wants, and he's even worse at letting people give to him. He will build up a lot of frustration, resentment, anger that will just keep perking around inside, maybe even out of his consciousness, because it scares him to be angry like dad or like the bad men out there he's heard women complain about. So he doesn't even know how angry he is. It will usually start out by coming out as passive aggressiveness. That's indirect roundabout anger. A put down, a cut, a jab, a bite, a forgetfulness, a not following through. I forgot. Or, oh no, that's just a joke. I didn't mean anything by it. That's how it will often come out. It's the little daggers that we poke in the people we're frustrated and resentful with. Then, if it's a big enough deal, it's building enough, we're tired enough, we're irritable, whatever, then it's going to come out as that eruption, that victim puke, where we say everything we've been rehearsing in our head that we never even made the connection that this thing I'm rehearsing, that I want to tell them of how bad they're not treating me well or not loving me, where they need to quit doing that, or all that stuff we're rehearsing, we don't even link that to the fact that we're pissed off. Right? It goes back to maybe the very first thing you talked about, this wanting them to change. Right? We don't even realize that's anger. That's anger, and it's unloving. I tell people, wanting somebody to fundamentally change is unloving, because I don't know, if you've ever been with somebody who wanted you to change in some fundamental way, did you feel loved by them? Probably not.
Absolutely not. And what you just said about receiving as well, I can see myself there as well. I mean, I had to do a lot of work on being able to receive, and actually, because that sensation in my nervous system felt like a threat almost in that sense. And I would literally notice myself self-sabotaging or sabotaging afterwards, because I felt so uncomfortable, which is kind of also ties into the making it hard for people to receive. You talk about how nice guys often, of course, you mentioned about not express their needs, and specifically also, of course, when it comes to sex, there's a lot of shame around that, and there are often indirect, subtle or covert contracts when it comes to sex, rather than being bold, being directional, and being clear, like, hey, I want to ravish you, I desire you, and kind of expressing that powerful, conscious, masculine desire. But specifically, kind of the way you describe it, it almost reminds me of, it's like a little boy asking for permission, rather than a man who actually expresses his truthful desire. How can men start to shift this? How can men shift from these subtle or covert contracts when it comes to sex, or indirect ways, to really express in a powerful way their desire?
Let me throw out something that I think probably needs to be talked about in terms of just nice guys in general anyway, but it really relates to this. When I started working on myself, I started in a 12-step group for sex addicts, because my wife said, you're a sex addict. I quickly found out I wasn't having enough sex to be a sex addict. But I did use sex for external validation. If a woman wanted to be with me, I got value. And after my wife and I got married, she quit having interest in being sexual with me. It just shut off. And then I also got into a men's group that I was in for a number of years, led by a female therapist who'd written a few books on sexual shame. So I went to work on being in a group. And what I did in both that 12-step group, a therapist, the men's group, was I worked at just revealing the things about me that I didn't want anybody to know. And for many of us, that is sexual stuff. The stuff we keep hidden, we keep secretive, things that have happened to us, things we've done, our fantasies we have, our desires, our impulses. Because of our culture that says sex is dirty, evil, and sinful, so save it for the one you love, we have almost this universal hiding of our sexual wounding, our sexual self. We think we're bad. People are going to reject us, think we're terrible people. So I'm a big believer that if you want to be a fully functioning sexual person, if you want to be that person running your factory installed software of a man or a woman who is desirous of sex, who's open to sex, who's adventurous around sex, who will open and take risks and be vulnerable and have adventures, we've got to go find safe people and start releasing our sexual shame. And for me, I've been doing that for years of just, if I find anything that I feel shame or fear about, I go talk to somebody about it. I try to release it. My wife and I, again, we were talking about this again the other night, driving out to visit friends. For a few years now, her and I goal, and I kind of started this conversation, I said, I want both of us to keep supporting the other in clearing out all sexual shame and fear. If you have a sexual impulse, if you have something and you feel shame or fear about it, let's talk about it. Let's find ways to work through it. Let's find ways to explore it, move past it. And because she grew up, in Catholic culture down here in Mexico. I grew up fundamental Christian in America, that even though we're bombarded with sexual stimuli, it's still, a very prudent, purient sexual society. So we've all got our work, but we need safe people to go work out that sexual shame. And just, not to scare anybody off, but about 3 years ago, I was doing an ayahuasca ceremony down in Costa Rica. And I made my intention before that ceremony was I wanted to release sexual shame. Well, they say be careful what you ask for with Mother Ayahuasca, the plant medicine, because she'll give you what you need, maybe not what you wanted or expected. That was the strangest plant medicine ceremony I ever did. I've done about 8 of them. And what happened is I went into 3 what they call nadas. Nada means nothing. We're just, you're not aware. You're not dreaming. You're not seeing visions. And I woke up 3 times with the back of my shorts wet. I thought, what happened? I'm not sweating. And I realized I had shit in my shorts. And now, that night before I went to the ceremony, Mother told me, put an extra pair of shorts in your bag. And I did. I hadn't done that any other night. I thought later, I wish she'd told me, put 2 extra pairs of shorts in your bag. So I got up, first time it happened, I thought, wow, I don't even remember anything. I was in that deep trance. So I went to the bathroom, changed my shorts, put on another pair, and another nada, wake up, wet shorts. This time I got no more shorts to change into, so I go, a lot of paper towels, stuck a lot of paper towel down my shorts. Third time I wake up, again. Okay, so I go up to the shaman to get, I think my last cup of the ayahuasca, and he goes, have you had any visions? And I said, no, but I've shit in my shorts 3 times. And he puts his arms around me and he says, that's amazing. There's freedom in that. There's wildness in that. You're free. Now, he didn't know my intention was to release sexual shame. And this was an all-night ceremony. So I spent about the rest of the night till sunrise sitting in a pair of shitty shorts because I had no other option, right? And I thought, if there's any way to clean out sexual shame, that must be the way I needed to do it, because probably my sexual shame began probably in messy diapers with maybe a caregiver that had that disgusting look of shame or left me in my shitty diapers. That's probably where it all began. But just therapy alone wouldn't have ever gotten me to that space of connecting my sexual shame to a shitty diaper and the disgust of a caregiver, right? So it was powerful. And I'm not saying that's the route everybody needs to take, but I do say, go find a coach, a therapist, a men's group, a 12-step group, a minister that's open and not going to put more shame on you. Probably don't go do this with your mother, your wife, or your girlfriend. Go find safe people to start talking about the things you don't want people to know about you. As you release that sexual shame, get feedback that you're not bad, you're not a terrible person, you're normal, and you get to actually integrate everything in the shadows into conscious awareness. And like Carl Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule our life and we'll call it fate. So to open up and have that kind of sexual dynamic we want for ourselves, with a partner, with partners, the gift we give to the people we're sexual with, even what we teach our children. we've got to go release our own sexual shame, and that might be a lifelong journey. So far, it seems to be for me.
Wow, it's truly incredible, and this really goes to the core ultimately of it, rather than for men just to try to be more direct and be bold, which can be an act in itself. It's really going to the core of that shame. Just one final question for you here. Where can people connect with you? Where can people access your powerful work? Where can people find you?
Two ways. One is at drglover.com. I'm rebuilding the website right now, but it has my courses, my workshops, and the programs I've got there. The other is integrationnation.net. That's my men's membership program that we launched in July of 23, worldwide program for men. So check out both, drglover.com, integrationnation.net.
We're going to link that all in the show notes, episode descriptions, everywhere for people to find you. And also for everyone listening here, as I shared at the beginning, Robert's book about No More Mr. Nice Guy is, from my perspective, as we said, more prevalent and more relevant than ever before in today's world, specifically around what you mentioned today. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know this is going to serve a lot of people. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fun. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I am so grateful to be of service on your path. Now, these podcast episodes are entirely for free. And for us to continue to support you at the highest level, there is something specific you can do that will only take a few seconds of your time. If you can leave this show 5 stars, of course only if that's how you truly feel about it, or give it a thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube, then this goes a long way in allowing us to reach more people. Now, even more impactful is if you take 30 to 45 seconds or 1 minute max to write a few short sentences about how you feel about this podcast. Whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, that really goes a long way. And of course, if you feel that someone can benefit from this, who you know, if you share it with them, that also goes a long way. And of course, sharing it on your social media platforms. These are all little and small steps you can take that really make a big difference. Once again, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to be of service.